So this is the kind of thing that I would naturally get really anxious about and research and just go down the rabbit holes. And you had told me early on, just don't worry about it. And so I don't worry about it. I don't research them when they come out. I don't look to see what happened. I don't bother. So for me, it's like I'm going to keep doing what I think of as a best practice, and Google will do what it is doing, and I'm not going to try to play the system. So, yeah, the answer is I don't really look and I don't really care.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like your traffic has generally been going up the whole time, right?
Yep.
So you've been unimpacted because what happens sometimes is basically I hear from people that do zero link building at all. And oftentimes, they're like, everything was fine. I haven't done anything. I don't even have any links to my site. And then they'll drop for whatever reason. And it could be, your content is so well focused, you're interested, passionate about the niche in general. And then you've taken a lot of attention and care to make sure the content's good. So it may be like, because the content's so good and you have links, I mean, I think it's helpful. They're super relevant. So maybe all that together is helping out. I don't know.
I mean, I think the Google algorithms, the point of the changes is to try to direct people to better content that is closer to what they're searching for. So, from my perspective, as long as I am making good content and helping Google find it, I can't imagine why an algorithm change would be bad for me. I guess in my mind, I just think maybe that will help more people find it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and one of my friends, Rob Atkinson, I
Uh-huh.
interviewed him recently. Uh, At the time that we're recording this, it hasn't gone live yet, but by the time people listen and or watch this, it will. So one interesting thing, Rob has a huge site. It's like a
Sure.
7-figure per year site. Insane. Just a niche site, but he has been hit by the algorithm changes. He has excellent content, great links, like it's
Sure.
a robust, like very great website. And what he observed was sometimes, right, they'll drop not off page one, but they'll drop from like number one to number five.
Sure.
And a lot of times it'll just be a shuffling on page one that greatly impacts the traffic, but the quality of the results on the first page is basically the same.
Right.
So he was sort of speculating like Google just shuffles it around every now and then for certain niches, but
And that may be
who
too. I think
knows?
sometimes they just do testing to see, obviously what people are clicking on. So maybe by doing some shuffling on the first page, they're just confirming, do people actually really want that article, or are they just clicking on what's first? I could see that being the case. For me, most of my stuff is not ranking number one. A decent amount of it is on page one. But again, I'm not even tracking individual keywords. I'm just moving forward. So that's the best advice I could give is it's so easy to get bogged down in the data. And a lot of times, going in a couple times a year and looking at the data, seeing what's happening with your content is good. But every day is just going to really stop you from making more content.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, it's surprising because some people just spend all the time in the data. And then, I mean, I think getting caught up in the algorithm updates, like obviously if you notice your traffic dropped a lot,
For
like
sure.
you check around, but unfortunately, like nowadays, usually there's nothing you can do. You just have to wait for another, I mean, especially if you're doing the right stuff
Right.
already. Sometimes, people are publishing crappy content or something like that, but yeah, it's pretty nuts out there. So let's see. One other area that I think we needed to get to was, I don't see where I need to go. Is there anything else that you could think of?
Yeah, I could share just a few things that we're thinking about doing in the next I'd call it maybe 6 months.
Sure.
So an exercise that I'm going through this week actually is what I call a tree exercise. We did it back in my corporate life, where you essentially pick out leaves, branches, trunks, and roots. I don't know if you've done this, where it's basically a delegation tree. So leaves are things that I don't even want to know they're happening. I just want them to happen. I don't want anyone to talk to me about it. Just make it happen. Don't tell me about it. Branches are, you know what, give me a heads up, but I still really don't need to know much about it. I just want to know that it's happening. Trunks are, you know what, I want to be involved in this process. I want to make sure I'm approving the things that are going out, but I'm not physically doing it. And then roots are like, these are my babies. These are the things that I am focused on doing. I want to own the process for them. So I'm going through that exercise, which I've done for work a bunch of times. I'm now doing it for my niche site to see. I have one gal who does my Pinterest and some of my outreach that I really do trust. And then so I'm going through my list basically and seeing, what do I still want to be doing myself? What do I maybe want to delegate so that I can spend more time on those kind of root activities? So things like putting posts into WordPress, I'm going to be giving up because there are maybe better places for my time. And that is something that someone else is capable of doing. So that's an exercise I'm going through now so that I can spend some more time on some bigger projects that I want to do, like creating basically a knowledge directory of other courses in my niche. So instead of putting all my time right now into creating my own course, when I don't have a huge email audience to sell it to anyway, that's not a priority. So what I do want to do is highlight other people who already have really good educational content and make a directory from that, work on our email list growth, work on that diversity project we talked about, and then just kind of building probably another content sprint into the calendar in the next maybe quarter to get that done. So I want to be sure that I'm doing that every year, but that takes a lot of time on my root section, right? Doing all the keyword research, coordinating the writers, and doing all of that. So that's kind of where we're headed for the next 6 months. Nothing earth-shatteringly different than what we've been doing, but just more of what's working.
Very cool. And you mentioned like a course maybe in the future, something like that. So is that just kind of out there, like no specific plans?
It is. The reason being, I do like the diversification of revenue, right? I put in ads early on in my site. I'm not sad I did that. Amazon plus a couple other programs. I like the diversification, just it's less risk, obviously. Courses are something that I would build out for the future, but it's not something where I want to dump $10,000 to make a massive course without an audience at this point, right? So I have a steady stream of web traffic, but I don't have a community that is built up over years and that kind of level of trust that you need to sell a big course. So I don't feel a need to do that, but I might just start dabbling in smaller mini courses and get some new content out there that I'm not seeing other places. And meanwhile, be promoting people who do have good content already.
And that makes sense. I mean, I know a lot of it's the best way to start, I think, is with affiliate marketing, other products, whether it's physical or the digital products, because then you'll know what's selling.
Right.
You don't have to spend all the time and effort and capital in developing the product, and then you can still earn from it, but then there's less skin in the game, at least early on.
Agreed.
Very cool.
So content is kind of the biggest thing that I know works. So if I'm going to be investing a lot of, money at a particular time in the site, that's the first place that I'm going to put it.
Cool. All right. Well, any tips, and this is sort of the last little bit. So any tips for people that are like, maybe they haven't started their site yet, or maybe they're just sort of launching and they're not earning like $100 per month yet, something like that.
The thing I would say that's kept me going the most is picking a niche that I really do like. So if the content wasn't something that I cared about, if I picked a certain product on Amazon, vacuum cleaner bags, I'm not going to still be doing it a year and a half
Mhm.
later. So for me, this is something that I want to enjoy doing. I don't just want money from it, right? I want the whole experience of doing it. I like learning about it. So the biggest piece I think for me is pick something that you actually care about. Yes, it has to be viable, right? If your space is super crowded and you're never going to break through in it, that's probably setting yourself up for failure. But if you can go about it in a new way or niche down a little bit into something that you really care about and enjoy doing, I mean, I literally never get tired of working on the site. It's fun. And if it made me half as much, I'd still be doing it. So,
Yep. And just a quick note, when we were talking early on back in probably November of 2018, when you were trying to figure out like exactly what to pick for your niche, I was like, I don't know anything about it.
right,
It sounds maybe too obscure. I'm not
right.
sure. I don't know if you're gonna be able to make it work, but I assume, that there's enough products out there and there's enough people interested. And I was like, I think it's going to be okay if you go for it. And you were like, all right, I'll do it.
Exactly. So I went through all the exercises of looking at different options. I just didn't want to do them. I just wanted to do this one. So I was like, I'm going to make it work. It's going to be great. We're going to find things that other people are not doing. There's tons of room on the internet. Not every topic is covered, even when it feels like every topic is covered. It's not, or it's not covered well. So, really, like, there's still room, even in big categories that are pretty popular. There's still room to do it better or do it, in a more specific way. And that just makes you want to keep working on it. I think
Hmm.
that's pretty important.